How men accidentally create the friend zone. It is almost impossible to turn the friend zone around without understanding how it begins. Most men believe the friend zone happens because a woman simply decides she does not want them that way. They imagine there is an invisible switch in her mind that suddenly flips one day. One moment she likes him, and the next moment she says, "I only see you as a friend." But after years of watching relationships unfold, hearing countless real stories, and understanding the psychology behind attraction, something uncomfortable becomes clear. The friend zone rarely happens because a man is unattractive, too short, too broke, or not interesting enough. More often, it happens because of one psychological mistake men make very early in their interactions with women they like. And once that mistake becomes part of the dynamic, attraction becomes incredibly difficult to reverse. The strange part is that most men try to escape the friend zone by doing the exact opposite of what actually creates attraction. She insight here. Welcome to the conversation. In this story, we are going to uncover 3 things. First, how men accidentally create the friend zone. Second, why trying harder almost never fixes it. And finally, the one shift in behavior that can completely change the dynamic between a man and a woman. But first, we need to understand how the friend zone quietly forms. One of the biggest misconceptions men have is believing that the friend zone appears suddenly. But that is almost never how it works. The friend zone is created slowly, quietly, and often without either person realizing it. It begins the moment a man decides to hide his romantic intentions. Imagine a simple scenario. A man meets a woman at work, at the gym, through friends, or even online. He finds her attractive almost immediately. He enjoys talking to her. He is curious about her life. Deep down, he hopes that something romantic might happen between them. But instead of showing that interest early, he chooses what feels like the safer path. He becomes friendly. They begin talking more often. They exchange numbers. They text occasionally. They share stories about their day. When she complains about work, he listens patiently. When she talks about family problems, he offers advice. Slowly, he becomes someone she feels comfortable opening up to. From his perspective, everything seems to be going well. He believes attraction is slowly building. But from her perspective, something very different is happening. She is learning how to categorize him. Human beings naturally place people into mental categories based on the roles they play in our lives. There are categories for co-workers, acquaintances, mentors, romantic partners, and friends. These categories form based on patterns of behavior, not just personality. If a man consistently shows up as agreeable, emotionally supportive, and non-romantic, the mind begins filing him into the category that best matches the experience. And that category is usually friend. Here is where things become complicated. Once that category is formed, it becomes psychologically difficult to change. Not impossible, but difficult. Romantic attraction needs certain emotional ingredients to grow. There has to be some tension, some mystery, some sense that the interaction carries romantic possibility. Without those signals, something subtle happens. Comfort replaces curiosity. Familiarity replaces intrigue. And while familiarity is beautiful in long-term relationships, in the early stages between two people it often pushes the dynamic toward friendship instead of attraction. Another common mistake happens when men try to earn attraction through reliability. A man begins to think, if I show her that I am the most dependable man in her life, eventually she will realize I am the best choice. So he becomes the man who always answers her messages immediately. He is always available when she needs help. If she is dating another guy and needs advice, he listens patiently. If she is going through a difficult emotional moment, he shows up again. None of these behaviors are wrong by themselves. In fact, they are qualities many women deeply value in a partner. But when these behaviors appear without romantic framing, they reinforce something else. They reinforce a platonic role. Think about it carefully. When someone consistently behaves like a supportive friend, the brain rarely interprets that energy as romance. It interprets it as friendship. And the longer that pattern continues, the stronger that perception becomes. Eventually, many men hear a sentence that feels like a quiet punch to the gut. "You're such a great guy. I just don't see you that way." To the man, this feels confusing and unfair. In his mind, he has done everything right. He has been kind, loyal, supportive, and attentive. But attraction is not simply about being a good person. It is about how someone experiences you emotionally. And once you understand how the friend zone is created, you begin to see why escaping it requires something far more powerful than simply trying harder. Why trying harder makes it worse, and the one shift that changes everything. Once a man realizes he has been placed in the friend zone, his instinct is almost always the same. He decides to try harder. He believes the solution is to prove his value even more. In his mind, the problem must be that she simply has not seen enough of his good qualities yet. So he begins doubling his effort. He becomes more attentive, more helpful, more patient, more emotionally available. From his perspective, this feels logical. After all, relationships are built on trust, kindness, and reliability. So naturally, he assumes that showing more of those qualities should make him stand out as the obvious choice. But this is exactly where many men unknowingly make the situation worse. Because when a woman has already placed a man into the friend category, increasing those same behaviors does not suddenly create attraction. Instead, it reinforces the role she already associates with him. Think about how friendships work in everyday life. Friends are the people we lean on emotionally. They are the ones we call when something goes wrong. They are the ones we share our frustrations with. They listen, they support, and they help us feel stable. So when a man becomes the person she turns to every time she has a problem, he may believe he is building intimacy. But what he is actually building is emotional dependency inside a platonic framework. And that difference is incredibly important. Romantic attraction and emotional comfort are not the same thing. In the early stages of attraction, people respond strongly to things like curiosity, novelty, uncertainty, and a sense of romantic tension. These emotional ingredients create excitement. But when a man consistently behaves like a dependable emotional anchor, without introducing romantic energy, he becomes something else entirely. He becomes a safe space. And while being a safe space is beautiful inside a committed relationship, safety alone rarely creates attraction when it does not already exist. There is another hard truth many men struggle to accept. When a man stays in the supportive friend role for too long, he often becomes so valuable as a friend that the woman hesitates to risk losing that friendship. Even if she respects him. Even if she admires him. Even if she appreciates him deeply. Crossing into romance could disrupt something that already feels stable and safe. So she keeps him where he feels most familiar, inside the friendship. This is why trying harder can trap a man even deeper in the friend zone. Every act of support strengthens the identity she has already given him. Another painful dynamic often appears during this stage. The man begins investing more emotional energy, while the woman continues